millionaire mistress mocked pregnant wife's dress. She ended up owning the fashion brand. Pain, betrayal, redemption. These three words ignited a flame that set in motion a tale no one saw coming. When a glamorous but manipulative mistress mocked a pregnant wife's modest dress at an exclusive charity gala, onlookers dismissed it as just another cruel jab in high society. Little did they know this quiet insult would birth an unstoppable ambition. Through heartbreak and humiliation, that pregnant wife would rise from the ashes, reclaim her self-worth, and build an empire. This story is about karma at its finest, where a woman's scorn transforms tragedy into triumph and redefines the world of fashion forever. The sun dipped low over Bel Air's manicured lawns as guests in designer gowns and tuxedos made their way up the marble steps of the Hall family mansion. George Hall, a reputable investor, known for backing young tech startups in the heart of Silicon Valley, had earned a place among Los Angeles's financial elite. His fortune funded lavish dinner parties, private philanthropic events, and, unfortunately, barely concealed secrets. Isabel Hall, his wife of 7 years, stood by the grand entrance with a soft smile. At nearly 5 months pregnant, her rosy cheeks and luminous glow dazzled almost as much as the chandelier above. Still, Isabel felt an undercurrent of unease. Her marriage to George had been filled with affectionate moments, but recently, rifts had formed beneath their polished exterior. She adjusted the dusty rose chiffon gown she had designed and sewn herself, a hobby cultivated during her college days at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, FIDM. Despite having a talent for creativity, Isabel had chosen to forego a career in fashion to support George's ambitions. Yet tonight, that self-sewn dress was one of her final illusions of independence. It was the only garment in which she truly felt herself. Across the foyer, with a glass of champagne in hand, stood the fabled mistress, Clarissa Beaumont. Whispers spread through the circle of ladies near the grand piano. Clarissa was a former model, rumored to have once walked the catwalk at Milan Fashion Week. Now she made her presence known at every high-profile event in town, swirling in and out of well-to-do circles like a glittering wasp. Isabel had suspected Clarissa's relationship with George for months. There were hushed phone calls, strange credit card charges, and that distinct coldness creeping into her marriage. Tonight, seeing how Clarissa tilted her perfect chin and stroked George's cufflinks openly, Isabel could almost confirm her suspicions. Yet she remained rooted to her role. Gracious hostess, expectant mother, dutiful wife. Still, Isabel's racing heart refused to settle. She clutched the baby blue ribbon that cinched her waist, pondering if she was merely being paranoid. How did she end up in such a precarious position? As servers passed by with silver trays of canapes, laughter and champagne bubbled in the hall, but Isabel felt a chasm opening beneath her. In a corner near the stained glass windows, Isabel spotted her best friend, Lucinda Maxwell, a famous event planner whose client list included names like Rachel Zoe and even a whispered association with Anna Wintour's staff. Lucinda offered a discreet wave, concern etched on her face. She too had heard rumors about Clarissa and George, but no one wanted to shatter Isabel's final illusions unless she was ready to confront the truth herself. A hush fell over the crowd as George raised his crystal flute for a toast. His polished smile radiated confidence. "My esteemed friends, your presence here means the world to us. Isabel and I are thrilled to share our good news with you about the baby on the way." He paused for dramatic effect, letting the applause settle. "And tonight, we also celebrate the success of my latest venture, Hall Capital's new partnership with TechWave. Please enjoy the evening." The guests cheered, and the room erupted in polite conversation once more. Isabel's heart gave a lonely thump. It was one more reminder that George's concerns were more about business accolades than their marriage. Across the parlor, Clarissa tapped her stiletto heel, sipping her champagne with an enticing smirk. Through the swirl of tuxedos and evening gowns, Isabel withdrew to the edge of the party. She cast one last glance at George, wondering how many lies were hidden beneath that immaculate facade. Tonight, under this ornate roof, illusions and truths would collide. Little did any of them know, this grand event would set the stage for an epic collision that would test Isabel's spirit, and ignite a transformation no one could have predicted. The evening's highlight was a charity auction hosted by the Halls, benefiting a local children's hospital. Handmade quilts, celebrity memorabilia, and even a date with a rising pop star were on the docket. Isabel, with her innate eye for details, had ensured each item was displayed under the perfect lighting. Despite the swirl of guests, her attention kept drifting to Clarissa. Near the silent auction table, Clarissa leaned in to gossip with a small group of fashionable women. Their laughter rose sporadically, cutting through the hum of the party. Isabel wasn't prone to eavesdropping, but she felt compelled to take a step closer, her pulse quickening. "I just can't believe she's wearing that dress," Clarissa said, loud enough for Isabel to catch every word. She tossed her salon-perfect hair over one shoulder. "No offense, but it looks like something from a maternity discount store. Or worse, like she sewed it herself." Soft giggles rippled through the group. Isabel's cheeks heated, and she ducked behind a pillar, unsure if she should confront Clarissa. A jab at her personal style was one thing, but there was a deeper cut implied in the mistress's words. Isabel, the pregnant wife, was an outdated presence in George's life. A tall woman in Clarissa's circle, sporting a sleek black Givenchy gown, chimed in. "I heard she actually studied fashion once upon a time. Maybe that's the best she can do, poor dear." Clarissa smirked, her lips painted a provocative red. "Well, let's hope that if she's so determined to sew her own clothes, she invests in better fabric next time. It's one thing to be pregnant, but another to completely lose your sense of style. If I ever have a child, and that's a big if, I'd only wear Dior or something runway approved." Her companions burst into stifled laughter. Isabel felt as though her heart might shatter. In that moment, the combined weight of Clarissa's mockery and George's distance pressed down on her. Once vibrant and confident, Isabel now stood trembling, uncertain of her place. The voice of Lucinda broke Isabel's painful introspection. "Hey, there you are." Lucinda appeared beside her, a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I saw you leave the crowd. Are you okay?" For a moment, Isabel couldn't find words. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and she motioned for Lucinda to follow her away from the murmuring throng. Out on the terrace, where the light of Chinese lanterns illuminated the garden, Isabel finally took a deep breath. "Clarissa, I overheard her mocking my dress. And me, basically." Lucinda's face darkened. "You know she's only doing this to provoke you. She loves attention, at any cost." "She got what she wanted," Isabel whispered, her voice cracking. "I feel humiliated." They stood in silence, the hush of the star-sprinkled sky offering momentary solace. From the open French doors, the lively music and chatter reminded Isabel that she was hosting an event. She couldn't crumble now. Lucinda pressed her hand over Isabel's. "You are strong. Remember who you were before you buried all your dreams to support George. That woman is still inside you." Isabel nodded, finding the faintest spark of determination within herself. She'd always been the type to look for silver linings. Even as Clarissa's words stung, a quiet resolve took shape in Isabel's mind. She had a passion for design. She had sacrificed her ambitions in the name of love and family. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to reclaim them. They re-entered the mansion, the night's festivities still in full swing. Isabel forced a smile for the guests, glancing briefly at George, who was engrossed in conversation with a tech entrepreneur from Chicago. Clarissa, meanwhile, glowed in the center of a different group, accepting compliments on her glittering designer gown as if she were the true lady of the house. Isabel bowed silently. She would not let this woman ruin her sense of self-worth. That vow, simple but potent, planted the seeds of a greater destiny. A destiny that would soon transform Isabel from a mocked pregnant wife into someone unstoppable, a force the fashion world would learn to respect. The gala ended just shy of midnight, and the final car pulled away from the circular driveway. Inside the mansion's master bedroom, the tension between George and Isabel was palpable. Their conversation about the evening's success had devolved into polite chatter, overshadowed by unspoken truths. Isabel sat at her vanity, brushing her hair in slow, deliberate strokes. The reflection in the mirror showed her tear-stained cheeks, though she'd wiped away most of the evidence. George paced near the window, loosening his tie. That was a great turnout tonight, he offered, as if the entire evening hadn't been fraught with tension. She nodded, refusing to meet his gaze. Yes, it was. The auction raised a lot of money for the hospital. He cleared his throat. You seemed quiet, though. Was something wrong? Isabel hesitated. Perhaps she should confront him about Clarissa's open flirtations or about the rumors that circulated through LA society. But a lifetime of conditioning to keep up appearances, to maintain composure, held her back. She had no concrete proof of the affair, only humiliating suspicion and half-heard gossip. She placed her brush down. I'm pregnant, George. Being on my feet all night was tiring. That's all? A half-lie was simpler than the full truth, especially when she sensed that he already knew what was brewing beneath her surface. His features softened slightly. Right. You should rest. And that was that. He left for the guest bedroom, citing an important business call he had to make with partners in Singapore. Isabel swallowed her sorrow. She realized in that moment how distant they had truly become. In the days that followed, Isabel's heartbreak festered in subtle ways. She tried to occupy herself with baby preparations, shopping for a crib, reading about newborn care, and picking out pastel wallpaper. Yet Clarissa's cruel words clung to her memory. Her once favorite pastime, designing her own clothing, had become overshadowed by shame. Every time Isabel stared at her sewing machine, she recalled the mistress's jeers. Her only solace was Lucinda, who frequently visited with cheerful lunches and encouraging pep talks. You can't let Clarissa's venom pollute your creativity, Lucinda insisted one afternoon as they sat around the kitchen island, munching on grilled vegetable paninis. This is your passion. Don't let her take that away from you. Isabel managed a weak smile. I know, it's just, I feel ridiculous, wanting to design clothes while she flaunts real runway pieces. I know it's superficial, but it hurts. Lucinda squeezed her hand. Superficial? You're an artist, Belle. Designing isn't about labels. It's about expressing your soul. And trust me, Clarissa can wear all the designer gowns in the world, but she'll never know how to craft something from her own heart. Bolstered by her friend's faith, Isabel decided to visit her old design professor, Janice Ross, at FIDM. Professor Ross had been one of the few who recognized Isabel's raw talent back in college. The bright afternoon light flooded the campus's courtyard when Isabel arrived, feeling both nostalgic and uncertain. Professor Ross greeted her with genuine warmth in a small cafe near the school library. My dear Isabel, look at you, glowing with motherhood. Sit, tell me everything. In soft, tentative words, Isabel described her life as George's wife and how she'd almost abandoned her love for fashion. She hinted at the recent humiliations but didn't disclose the entire affair. Professor Ross listened intently, then offered kind but firm guidance. You have something unique, Ross said, stirring her tea. Remember how your final year project impressed even the visiting board of directors from Michael Kors? They saw promise in you. So did I. There's no expiry date on creativity. If you still want it, it's never too late. Something sparked within Isabel. The first glimmer of hope she'd felt in months. Professor Ross's words reminded her of the joy that designing once brought, and perhaps it was time to reclaim that part of herself. Little did Isabel know, her decision to pick up the needle and thread again would set off ripples that would soon become tidal waves. Tidal waves that would transform her heartbreak into something far more powerful, a new beginning. And in the heart of that transformation, karma would begin to brew, waiting to strike back at those who had scorned her. In the quiet sanctuary of her sewing room, Isabel stood before a tall rack draped with assorted fabrics. Some were luxurious silks and satins, others humble cotton blends. She lovingly ran her fingers over them, recalling the thrill she'd once felt envisioning silhouettes, color palettes, and intricate embellishments. A soft flutter in her belly reminded her that she carried new life. She hadn't planned to restart her fashion dreams while pregnant, but something about the baby's presence spurred her forward. Perhaps it was a maternal instinct to build a life filled with authenticity, or perhaps it was her survival mechanism. Whatever the reason, Isabel began sketching again. The first design she worked on was a maternity dress. It was soft, knee-length, and sophisticated, yet comfortable. She incorporated a subtle empire waist that would accommodate a growing belly without sacrificing style. Unlike the dusty rose dress Clarissa had mocked, this one featured delicate lace applique across the shoulders, a statement of refined elegance. It took days of dedicated work, stolen moments between her pregnancy checkups and the demands of running the household. But in the hush of her sewing room, Isabel found solace. Each stitch represented a piece of her regaining self-worth. When she finally tried on the completed dress, she felt a surge of confidence. The mirror reflected more than just a garment. It reflected her determination. "This is who I am," she whispered, tears threatening to spill. And for a moment she dared to imagine a future where she could sell designs like this, giving other women the same feeling of empowerment she felt now. As she dabbled with more patterns, an elegant maxi dress for a dinner party, a chic blazer with adjustable side panels, her creativity bloomed. She filled a sketchbook with ideas for nursing-friendly tops, transitional clothing for postpartum bodies, and versatile pieces that blended comfort with high-fashion elements. The spark grew into a flame when one afternoon, Lucinda convinced her to meet a former client of hers, Paula Reeves, an influential fashion buyer for a boutique chain called Style Oasis, which boasted stores in Beverly Hills, Soho, and Chicago's Magnificent Mile. Lucinda arranged a casual meeting at a trendy cafe downtown. Paula, dressed in a statement jacket by Balenciaga, eyed Isabel's self-designed maternity dress with open admiration. "This is exquisite," Paula remarked, sipping her espresso. "So many maternity lines out there feel either too frumpy or too basic. Yours has a certain, I don't know, grace? I can see the potential." Isabel's heart pounded. She had brought along a small portfolio containing sketches and photos of her completed designs. Paula flipped through them with growing interest. "I'd like to see how these fit on a range of sizes. Would you consider creating a small capsule collection? Perhaps we can test them in one of our Beverly Hills locations." In that moment, Isabel felt both exhilarated and terrified. This wasn't just about designing for herself anymore. It was about stepping into the realm of professional fashion design. Still, the memory of Clarissa's jeers and George's growing indifference emboldened her. She wanted a life beyond heartbreak. "Yes," Isabel said, voice trembling with excitement. "I would love that." Over the following weeks, she juggled the demands of her pregnancy with a flurry of fabric sourcing, pattern making, and sample fittings. Lucinda helped her contact pregnant models willing to do low-key photo shoots. Professor Ross lent her old classroom mannequins. Soon, Isabel's modest sewing room turned into a bustling mini studio, buzzing with hope and determination. Yet in the background, George remained distant. Late-night meetings, out-of-town conferences, and cryptic phone calls continued. Isabel suspected he was meeting Clarissa. However, rather than wallow in despair, she channeled her anger and pain into her work. Every design, every new stitch, was a step away from the shackles of her marriage's unspoken betrayals. When the day came for Paula to officially review the capsule collection, Isabel was an anxious bundle of nerves. She laid out 7 pieces, each meticulously crafted, each one an evolution from her initial sketches. Paula arrived with an assistant and spent nearly an hour studying them, making notes, and asking questions. Then at last she gave Isabel a dazzling smile. "We'll take them," Paula said, "for a 3-month trial run in our Beverly Hills store." Congratulations, tears of joy blurred Isabel's vision. She had reclaimed a part of herself she thought she'd lost. And little did she know, this small victory was only the first stepping stone toward a destiny far greater than any she'd once imagined. One that would inevitably put her and Clarissa on a collision course neither could have predicted. The evening was electric with possibility as Isabel entered the Style Oasis boutique, her heart fluttering in rhythm with the sway of her lavender-wrapped dress, a design of her own making. The boutique had been transformed for the private unveiling. Soft golden lighting, white orchids perched delicately on display tables, and the low hum of fashionable conversation filling the space. Paula Reeves greeted her at the entrance with a wide, encouraging smile. "Welcome, Isabel. Your designs are already turning heads tonight. I think you're on to something special." Humbled but thrilled, Isabel followed Paula through the curated displays. Bell & Co.'s maternity line hung proudly among renowned labels, yet hers shimmered with a quiet uniqueness. Intricate floral embroidery, thoughtful silhouettes, hidden nursing, friendly details. She took in the sight, her heart swelling. Just a few months ago, she had been sewing alone in her small studio, battling self-doubt, and now here she stood. As she mingled, influencers floated toward her, intrigued by her designs. Some complimented her personally, while others posed with the clothes for their Instagram feeds. Isabel's cheeks flushed with happiness as she shared her inspiration. I wanted to create garments that honor the beauty of motherhood without sacrificing elegance. For a moment, it felt like nothing could go wrong, until a sudden shift in the atmosphere prickled Isabel's senses. Turning instinctively, she spotted Clarissa Beaumont sweeping through the boutique's glass doors, her black designer dress clinging to every curve. The air tightened. Murmurs rose among the guests as Clarissa, accompanied by none other than gossip columnist Tiffany Hayes, made her entrance as if she owned the room. Isabel froze, her pulse roaring in her ears. She hadn't invited Clarissa. This was supposed to be a safe space to celebrate her work, free from the drama of her crumbling marriage. Yet here she was, the specter of betrayal made flesh, gliding toward her with a syrupy smile. Isabel, darling, Clarissa cooed, her voice carrying across the room. Congratulations on this charming little endeavor. Lucinda appeared at Isabel's side like a guardian angel, murmuring, Stay calm. She's here to provoke you. Don't let her. Paula quickly intercepted Clarissa, offering a chilly smile. This is a private event, Miss Beaumont. May I ask who invited you? Tiffany, of course, Clarissa replied smoothly, gesturing toward the journalist who was already raising her phone to record. She's writing a feature on promising local brands, and I simply had to show my support. Isabel stiffened but forced a polite nod. Tiffany approached, eager. Isabel, may I ask you a few questions? Our readers are fascinated by your story, from high society wife to entrepreneur. Gathering her composure, Isabel smiled for the camera. Of course, Bell & Company was born from a simple realization that motherhood doesn't have to mean sacrificing style. I wanted to create designs that empower women during one of the most beautiful transitions of their lives. Tiffany beamed, scribbling notes. Clarissa, however, was not content to be a silent spectator. She leaned in, voice dripping with faux sweetness. It's admirable, really. Although, let's be honest, some of us prefer to maintain our couture figures rather than expand. Polite laughter rippled awkwardly through nearby guests. Isabel's stomach twisted. She could feel all eyes swiveling between her and Clarissa, the tension palpable. Clarissa pressed on, eyes gleaming. Motherhood is lovely, I'm sure, but it's hardly the pinnacle of glamour. The words were a slap disguised as a compliment. Once upon a time, they might have shattered Isabel, but not tonight. Standing tall, her voice steady, Isabel replied, There's room in fashion for all expressions of femininity, whether pregnant, postpartum, or not. True style embraces all stages of a woman's life. A ripple of approval stirred the crowd. Several influencers nodded, and a few murmured in agreement. Tiffany's eyebrows arched, clearly sensing the power dynamic shifting. Clarissa's smile faltered ever so slightly. She recovered quickly, laughing lightly as if to brush off the moment. But the damage was done. Isabel had met her insult head-on and emerged stronger, unshaken. Lucinda, unable to contain a grin, squeezed Isabel's arm. You were magnificent, she whispered. As Clarissa retreated into the racks of clothing, pretending to browse, Tiffany turned back to Isabel. One last question, she said, her voice softer now. What do you hope women feel when they wear Bell & Company? Isabel didn't hesitate. I want them to feel seen, celebrated, and strong. Motherhood isn't a diminishment of who we are. It's an evolution. Bell & Company is about honoring that journey with style and grace. The words settled over the boutique like a benediction. Applause broke out, small at first, but genuine, and Isabel felt tears prick at her eyes. Not from sadness, but from an overwhelming sense of pride. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. Clarissa slunk out before the evening's end, her departure barely noticed. Meanwhile, Isabel's designs sold out nearly entirely by the close of the event. Paula approached her, practically buzzing. You have something rare, Isabel. Not just talent, but soul. Investors are going to fight over you. Later, as Lucinda drove them home through the glittering Los Angeles night, Isabel sat in silence, cradling the gift bag of first-day sales and new contacts in her lap. She came here to humiliate you, Lucinda said, glancing sideways. Instead, she humiliated herself. Isabel smiled faintly, her hand resting protectively over her belly. Let her watch. Let them all watch. I'm just getting started. Outside the car window, the city lights blurred into a constellation of gold. Isabel Hall, mocked wife, betrayed spouse, forgotten dreamer, had found her voice, and she would never let anyone take it from her again. The days following the launch event were a whirlwind of activity for Isabel. Between the rush of orders for Bell & Company and the flurry of media attention, she hardly had a moment to breathe. Yet beneath the excitement, a dull ache remained lodged in her chest, a reminder of the fractures in her personal life that even the sweetest professional victories couldn't mend. George's presence at home grew even more sparse. Business trips stretched longer, late nights at the office became the norm, and his excuses grew thinner with each passing day. Isabel didn't need confirmation anymore. Her heart knew the truth. Still, part of her yearned for honesty, for the dignity of hearing it spoken aloud. One unusually cool evening, while Isabel was sorting fabric samples at the kitchen island, she heard the front door open. She glanced up to see George stepping inside. His posture slouched, his tailored suit rumpled as though it had been pulled on carelessly. He looked nothing like the polished, confident man she had married, and for a moment she pitied him. He dropped his keys onto the console table with a weary clatter. Their eyes met across the room, and the silence stretched heavy between them. "Belle," he said hoarsely, using the nickname he hadn't uttered in months. "We need to talk." Isabel inhaled sharply, setting the swatches aside. She wiped her hands on her skirt, steadying herself. This was it, the moment she had dreaded and, in some small way, craved. "All right," she said, her voice steady. "Talk." George shifted uncomfortably, raking a hand through his hair. He avoided her gaze at first, his eyes instead tracing the outlines of the life they had built together. The cozy living room, the framed sonogram on the mantel, the faint scent of baby powder already wafting from the nursery upstairs. "I owe you the truth," he said finally, voice low. "About Clarissa." Isabel folded her arms, the protective stance almost unconscious. "I already know," she said quietly. "No, you deserve to hear it from me." He exhaled heavily, as if the weight of his own guilt might crush him. "It started about a year ago. It was never serious, at least. Not to me. I thought I could control it, keep it from interfering with us. But I was a fool." Her chest constricted painfully. A year. While she had been celebrating anniversaries, planning for a future together, growing their family, he had been entangled in betrayal. "How long has it been over?" she asked, not sure she wanted the answer. George hesitated. "I tried to end it when you told me about the baby. I wanted to refocus on us. But Clarissa, she didn't take it well. She threatened to expose everything, to ruin my reputation, our finances, my partnerships. I was trapped." His words tumbled out in a messy confession, tinged with both regret and cowardice. Isabel absorbed them in silence, each syllable slicing deeper. All those late nights, the cold distance, the gnawing loneliness. It had a name now, a shape. "You should have told me," she said, her voice shaking with restrained fury. "Instead, you let her mock me, humiliate me publicly, while you stood by and said nothing." George's face crumpled. "I thought I was protecting you, protecting the baby. I didn't want to destroy what little we had left." A bitter laugh escaped her. "You destroyed it the moment you chose her." The raw hurt in her voice made George step forward, but Isabel held up a hand, stopping him cold. "And now what?" she demanded. "You think a confession makes this better? That it erases the nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering why the man I loved had become a stranger?" Tears welled in George's eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness. I love you, Belle. I love our child. I'm begging for a chance to fix this. His words, desperate and broken, hung in the air like smoke. Isabel wanted to believe him, for the sake of their unborn child, for the life they had once dreamed of. But trust, once shattered, was not so easily mended. She looked down at her growing belly, feeling a soft kick beneath her palm. Their son, innocent, untainted by the lies of adults, deserved better than a home built on deception. I can't give you an answer tonight, she whispered. I need space. I need time. George nodded, his shoulders sagging in defeat. I'll stay in the guest room. Without another word, he retreated upstairs, leaving Isabel alone with the symphony of her own heartache. The days that followed were a strange twilight, a half-life where nothing felt certain. George tiptoed around her, trying to be helpful, running errands, assembling furniture for the nursery, making clumsy attempts at conversation. Isabel tolerated it for the sake of peace, but inside she was building walls, one stone at a time. Her solace came from Bell and Company. Orders flooded in faster than she could fulfill them. Paula called with good news. An executive from LVMH, the luxury conglomerate that owned Dior, Fendi, and Givenchy, had noticed Bell & Co.'s rapid success. They wanted a meeting. The news jolted Isabel awake. She was no longer just George Hall's betrayed wife. She was Isabel Hall, founder of Bell & Company, a rising star on her own merit. When she told Lucinda over lunch, her best friend clapped her hands in delight. This is it, Belle. This is your real beginning. For the first time in months, Isabel smiled without reservation. Yet even as her professional life soared, the shadows of betrayal clung stubbornly. One evening, while reviewing new sketches for an upcoming collection, Isabel found herself wondering, could she ever truly trust George again? Could their son grow up in a house where love once lived, but now stood tainted by memory? George tried to show he was changing, attending prenatal classes, booking therapy sessions, making heartfelt apologies. But each gesture, however sincere, was a bandage over a wound that might never fully heal. One rainy afternoon, they sat together on the living room couch, sorting baby clothes into tiny piles. Do you think we can ever be happy again? George asked softly, holding up a miniature onesie. Isabel looked at him, really looked at him. The man she had once loved with her whole heart, and who had broken it so carelessly. I don't know, she said honestly, but for now I'm focusing on our son, and on building something lasting. For him and for myself. She stood, gathering the folded clothes. George watched her go, a bittersweet smile flickering on his lips. Isabel had changed. She was no longer the woman who lived for someone else's approval. She was forging her own path now, steady and unstoppable. Upstairs in the nursery filled with soft pastels and hand-stitched love, Isabel whispered to her unborn son, "We will be okay, I promise you." Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, Isabel had found her center. No matter what storms came next, she would weather them, with or without George, because she was no longer surviving. She was becoming. As Isabel's star rose, Clarissa Beaumont watched from the shadows, her envy festering into something darker. Each Instagram post, each glowing article about Bell and Company was a fresh slap in the face. It was supposed to be Clarissa dazzling at society events, basking in admiration, not Isabel Hall, the woman she had once mocked so effortlessly. Clarissa's own social standing had begun to wither. Invitations to exclusive parties dwindled. Her name, once whispered with intrigue, now carried a tinge of scandal. People had seen through her facade. George, her golden ticket, had grown cold and distant, and as Isabel's belly swelled with new life, Clarissa felt her own world shrinking, suffocating her under its collapse. She needed to strike back. She needed to ruin Isabel before the world forgot who Clarissa Beaumont even was. One bright afternoon, Clarissa slipped into a sleek rooftop bar in Beverly Hills, oversized sunglasses masking her scowl. Tiffany Hayes, the gossip columnist, was already waiting for her at a corner table. Recording device ready, a calculating gleam in her eyes. Clarissa sauntered over and slid into the seat opposite her, tossing her Gucci handbag onto the table. "Tiffany, darling," she drawled, "I have a story you'll want to hear." Tiffany raised an eyebrow. It better be good, Clarissa. My editor's tired of fluff pieces. Clarissa leaned forward, lowering her voice conspiratorially. Oh, it's better than good. It's scandalous. Isabel Hall's whole fashion brand? It's a lie. Tiffany's interest sharpened. She set her recorder on the table. Go on. Clarissa smiled thinly. Sources tell me she's not sewing those precious little dresses herself. She's got an underground sweatshop in downtown LA, exploiting cheap labor. The whole handmade image is a front. Tiffany scribbled notes furiously. Are you certain? Clarissa shrugged, her expression angelic. That's what I heard. And well, you know her family history. Her father wasn't exactly a saint. Rumors of financial fraud back in the day. Seems deceit runs in the blood. It was a masterstroke of malicious implication. No hard evidence, just enough filth to muddy Isabel's shining image. Tiffany leaned back, tapping her pen against her lip. I'll have to verify, of course. Clarissa smiled, sipping her overpriced rosé. Naturally, I'm just doing my civic duty. Wouldn't want the public to be deceived. Inside, she felt triumphant. Let Isabel's pretty little empire crumble under the weight of scandal. Over the next few days, Tiffany worked to verify the allegations. She called Style Oasis, hoping for cracks to appear, but Paula Reeves, sharp and loyal, shut down the rumors immediately. Bell & Company is a homegrown brand, Paula said firmly. I've personally toured Isabel's studio. 1 sewing machine, 2 part-time assistants, no sweatshops, no mass production. Unconvinced, Tiffany dug deeper, reaching out to suppliers. Every lead pointed to the same story. Isabel was exactly who she said she was. Hard-working, passionate, ethical. Frustrated, Tiffany arranged another meeting with Clarissa. When she arrived at the rooftop lounge again, Clarissa was already there, swirling her wine with forced nonchalance. Well, Clarissa demanded. Tiffany set down her notepad with a snap. Your sources are garbage. No sweatshops, no fraud, nothing to print. Clarissa's face darkened. Maybe she's better at hiding it than we thought. Tiffany sighed, gathering her things. Or maybe you're just bitter. Find me real proof, Clarissa. Otherwise, stay out of my inbox. Without another glance, Tiffany left, heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. Clarissa sat frozen, gripping her glass so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her plan had failed. And worse, the world would soon see Isabel soaring even higher. The final straw came in the form of a glittering event, the West Coast Fashion Preview. Rumors buzzed that Isabel would be attending, showcasing Bell & Company to an exclusive gathering of buyers and investors. Whispers hinted that even LVMH executives would be present. Clarissa couldn't bear the thought of Isabel basking in more adoration. Fueled by desperation, she managed to snag an invitation through an old acquaintance, a minor influencer who still believed Clarissa could open doors for her. On the night of the event, Clarissa dressed to kill. She wore a dramatic, body-hugging Versace gown, diamonds glittering at her neck. She painted on a smile and slipped into the venue like a snake through grass. Inside, the room pulsed with energy. Champagne flowed, flashbulbs popped, and designers mingled with high-powered buyers. In the center of it all stood Isabel, radiant in a custom off-the-shoulder Bell & Company gown, her baby bump a proud emblem of strength rather than vulnerability. Clarissa lingered at the bar, nursing her drink and watching with seething hatred as Isabel spoke confidently to an LVMH representative. Paula Reeves stood proudly beside her, introducing her to influential bloggers and magazine editors. Clarissa clenched her fists. This was supposed to be her life. The luxury, the attention, the adoration. Instead, she was the outsider, the interloper, the pariah no one wanted to be seen with. She made a move toward the stage, intent on confronting Isabel publicly, shaming her somehow. But 2 security guards, efficient and polite, intercepted her before she got close. I'm just here to congratulate her, Clarissa lied, batting her lashes. Ma'am, please stay in the public area, one guard said firmly. VIP access is restricted. Clarissa bit back a snarl and retreated, humiliated. As the evening wore on, she drowned her rage in champagne. She watched Isabel's future unfold before her eyes. A glowing article in Vogue Parenting, an LVMH investment deal, a boutique opening in Beverly Hills. Clarissa, meanwhile, would be left clutching her empty glass, her once promising life slipping further through her manicured fingers. When she finally stumbled out into the night, heels clicking unevenly on the pavement, Clarissa realized with a terrible certainty she had lost. Not just George, not just her social standing. She had lost the war, and Isabel Hall had won, not through vengeance, not through scheming, but through resilience, talent, and unshakable grace. Within weeks of the West Coast fashion preview, Isabel's partnership with LVMH began to crystallize. While it was still in its infancy, the mere association gave Bell and Company a remarkable boost. Influencers raved about the brand's chic maternity line. Style magazines like People Moms and Babies and Vogue Parenting expressed interest in features, and local boutiques placed more orders. Meanwhile, Clarissa's star was fading. She found fewer invitations to exclusive parties. Some whispered that her affair with George had become an open scandal, making her persona non grata among respectable circles. Even her Instagram followers began to dwindle after her attempt to slander Isabel fell flat. At a lavish charity fundraiser for pediatric cancer hosted by the Maxwell Foundation, Lucinda's family trust, the final blow came. Clarissa arrived uninvited, only to be quietly escorted out by security at Lucinda's discreet request. Still seething, she tried to stage a dramatic exit in front of cameras, but few paid attention. The real star of the evening was Isabel, who stood poised and graceful, greeting donors and well-wishers who praised her for her budding success. Adding insult to injury, the press ran a small piece the next day titled, "Charity Fundraiser Sees Rising Star Isabel Hall. Infamous socialite Clarissa Beaumont escorted out." The article barely spared a paragraph on Clarissa, noting only that her attempted disruption was quickly handled. As Clarissa read the article over coffee, her cheeks burned with humiliation. The final straw came when George Hall finally severed all ties with her. Bolstered by a newfound sense of responsibility and the imminent arrival of his child, he decided to step away from Clarissa entirely. He changed his phone number, refused her calls, and even sought legal counsel to protect himself from any blackmail attempts. Desperate, Clarissa showed up at George's office tower in Century City, demanding to see him. The receptionist politely but firmly denied her entry. Hours later, security guards escorted her from the lobby after she caused a scene. "Let me see George! This is ridiculous!" she screamed, mascara streaking her cheeks. But her outburst was met with disapproving stares. Word spread quickly among George's associates. Clarissa Beaumont was unhinged, a liability no one wanted to touch. That night, Clarissa returned to her small condo, which was far less glamorous than she made it appear on social media. Bills piled on her coffee table. Credit card debt loomed. Without George's financial favors and the lavish gifts he once showered her with, Clarissa began to feel the very real squeeze of living beyond her means. In one of her darkest hours, Clarissa realized she had become the architect of her own downfall. She had mocked a pregnant woman's humble dress, tried to sabotage her success, and manipulated George for money and status. Now she was left with nothing, her reputation in tatters and her finances on the brink of ruin. Even potential wealthy suitors turned away, spooked by her toxic reputation. It was as if fate itself was delivering a long overdue punishment, a reminder that cruelty and deceit yield sour fruit. With nowhere left to turn, Clarissa swallowed her pride and considered leaving Los Angeles altogether. She fantasized about starting fresh in a smaller city, maybe seducing another affluent man. But deep inside, she knew her illusions were crumbling. Meanwhile, Isabel and Bell and Company soared higher. Every victory Isabel achieved felt like cosmic retribution for Clarissa's cruelty. Friends, fans, and fashion insiders marveled at Isabel's meteoric rise, but few knew how much heartbreak and suffering she had endured to get there. Her success wasn't merely a stroke of luck. It was the product of resilience, passion, and the triumph of a pure heart over vanity and spite. In the quiet of her condo, Clarissa scrolled through her social media feed, watching Isabel's brand gain thousands of followers. Photos showed Isabel glowing, just weeks away from giving birth, standing next to her new maternity collection in the window of a prestigious Beverly Hills boutique. It was as if the universe was holding up a mirror, forcing Clarissa to confront the emptiness of her own life. And for the first time, Clarissa felt the sting of regret in the scorching pain of her own karma. As her due date approached, Isabel balanced doctor's appointments with finalizing business agreements. She signed a contract granting LVMH the option to invest further in Bell & Co. if sales targets were met over the next 2 quarters. The brand's presence in Style Oasis locations expanded, and talks began about a potential pop-up store in New York. George, humbled by his mistakes, made efforts to rebuild trust with Isabel. He attended prenatal classes with her, helped set up the nursery, and showed genuine remorse. However, Isabel stood firm that she needed space to decide if she could truly forgive him. As much as she appreciated his renewed devotion, the pain of betrayal lingered. "Whatever you need," George told her one evening, after assembling a crib in what used to be a spare bedroom. "I'll do anything to prove I'm worthy of being your husband again." "It's not just about me anymore," Isabel replied, resting a hand on her belly. "We have a child coming. I want a healthy environment for our baby." Despite the uncertain future of their marriage, Isabel felt a sense of closure regarding Clarissa. The mistress had vanished from social circles, and rumors suggested she'd moved to a smaller town near San Diego. Whether she was gone for good or biding her time, Isabel chose not to dwell on it. She was too busy forging a life of her own making. The day Isabel went into labor felt surreal. She was in her sewing room, reviewing sketches for a post-pregnancy line, when a sharp contraction took her breath away. George rushed her to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where Lucinda met them with comforting hugs and pep talks. Hours later, Isabel delivered a healthy baby boy, Nathan George Hall. Holding Nathan in her arms, Isabel felt a rush of love so powerful that it eclipsed every betrayal and every cruel word Clarissa had ever uttered. Here in this hospital room, life was pure, simple, and full of promise. News of Isabel's delivery spread quickly among friends and colleagues, many of whom sent well wishes and lavish baby gifts. Lucinda organized a newborn photo shoot, Bell & Co.'s new muse, she joked. The press picked it up, running a heartwarming story about the designer mom who had taken the fashion world by storm even before her child was born. Within a month, Isabel found herself juggling motherhood and business like a seasoned pro. She set up a small nursery next to her sewing space, often working on new designs while Nathan napped. Orders for Bell & Company continued to climb, especially once A-list celebrities started sporting her postpartum-friendly outfits. It wasn't long before Entertainment Tonight requested an interview, followed by a feature in Harper's Bazaar for Moms. Isabel's social media following skyrocketed, and her story, one of heartbreak turned into creative triumph, resonated with women around the world. They admired how she'd refused to let scandal or a broken marriage define her. A year after Nathan's birth, Bell & Company opened its flagship store in West Hollywood. The grand opening was a star-studded affair, with celebrities, influencers, and top fashion executives in attendance. Reporters captured Isabel's tearful yet radiant smile as she cut the ribbon, while onlookers cheered. She wore a custom creation, a fitted jumpsuit with delicate embroidered vines symbolizing growth and resilience. Lucinda, ever the supportive friend, stood beside her. "We've come a long way from that first night at the Hall Mansion, haven't we?" Isabel recalled the humiliating words Clarissa had thrown her way, mocking that dusty rose gown, dismissing her as out of touch. Now Isabel owned a legitimate fashion brand under the partial umbrella of LVMH, forging a path that welcomed mothers everywhere to feel stylish and confident. Karma had indeed come full circle, not through vengeful acts, but through Isabel's unwavering determination and grace. If there was any lingering bitterness, it was overshadowed by the magnitude of her success and the boundless love she felt for her son. And so, from mockery rose majesty. The pregnant wife, once scorned by a cruel mistress, had not only claimed her dignity, she had claimed an entire corner of the fashion world. In every stitch of fabric, every piece sold at Bell & Company was a testament to the power of resilience and the sweet victory that comes when one remains true to their heart. And there you have it, the remarkable journey of a pregnant wife mocked by her husband's mistress, who rose against all odds to create a thriving fashion empire. Isabel's story proves that even the deepest betrayal can be the catalyst for transformation, resilience, and success. By channeling her heartbreak into creativity, she built Bell and Company from a single self-sewn gown into a global name, redefining what it means to be both a mother and a visionary. Now it's your turn to help this story reach others who may need inspiration or a reminder that karma does not forget. If you found yourself cheering for Isabel or reflecting on your own struggles and triumphs, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps spread stories of hope and redemption to those who need it most. Thank you for joining us on this emotional ride. Until next time.